me know if it needs turning up.
Sanctuary was never meant for humankind. It was forged as a refuge from the war between the high heavens and the burning hells. Instead, it became a new battleground in this eternal conflict. A secretive group called the Haradrim has kept mortals safe. But now this once powerful order is a husk of what it was. And Sanctuary's ancient creators have returned to claim the hearts of humankind.
I'm trying to work out if it's like a full-blown cinematic like the Inarius one.
Of their downfall.
I think it's in-game. Yeah, in-game engine. Okay. I wonder then if this is actually in the game or if it's something they've made for marketing. Sticking with all the dark themes, which is good. We like that. Very Diablo 2. Bye. Hello. Rad comment. Thank you for the follow. Yes. Let's head toward the recently slaughtered animal. Very wise. And now you can't see. Get wrecked, nerd. It's very much got a horror vibe to it, which obviously you would expect with a Diablo game, but in comparison to the other reveals they've done, which have been a bit more like bombastic and have more spectacle, this is definitely a slower burn. Kind of reminds me of is it The Revenant? The film with DiCaprio and some other dude. Lots of snow. Is this the horse come back to say hello? Oh, okay. So yeah, I think this is in game. That looks like that was in game. If let's go back. So I'm assuming this is after we make our character. Does that does that mean we will see our character? Because I know they've mentioned that when they have like when you talk to quest givers and stuff like that, it will zoom in and you'll be able to see your character actually engage in conversation. So I'm wondering if that means that we'll have our character in cinematics and this is actually technically a customized character. Because if that's the case, sick. It's a nice touch. It's a cool touch. So I wonder if that, I hope that's the case. That would be very, very cool. That would be very, very cool. Let's have a look at this interview then. I'm still a bit upset that it's only 8 minutes and 39 seconds, but you know, it is what it is.
I'm Ryan McCaffrey, one of IGN's biggest Diablo fans. I am extraordinarily excited for Diablo 4.
Is that me? No, it can't be because the other video was fine. That's IGN, right? That's IGN with the bad sound, right?
I'm very pleased to be joined right now here at IGN FanFest by Joe Shelley, the game director on Diablo 4. Joe,
Okay,
welcome.
they fixed it.
Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, Joe, Diablo cinematics, we're no stranger to them being beautiful from the Blizzard cinematics team, but you've got a new trick up your sleeve this time. Your actual custom created character is in the cinematics. Can you please tell us how that came to be?
Yeah, that's right. So we knew that in Diablo 4, we wanted to offer much more character customization than we'd offered in previous Diablo titles. The artist did such a great job. The characters look so incredible, close up, from all.
Just to be clear, I know it's not that big a deal as well, by the way, but it's just cool because it's not been done in a Diablo game before.
Different camera angles that we knew that they needed to be part of the actual cinematics that you're experiencing, right? So as you're playing through the campaign, you're going through a mix of gameplay to conversations with NPCs to dynamic combat moments. And part of that is these cinematics where story takes place, right? And so we thought it was incredibly important for the character that you create, your character who is actually taking part in all of this.
Am I the only one who is automatically more attracted to a woman who I know can beat me up? I know that's probably off topic a little bit, but like some of my favorite waifus are like Tifa and Yor, and now I see this muscle bound lady and I'm like, kill me kind of thing. I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe I'm wrong. I know some people are intimidated by that sort of thing.
In the cinematics, and so we were able to, fortunately, with our engine and our tools and our artists coming together, especially our lighting team, really knocked it out of the park. We were able to get the cinematics to incorporate your character in a way that feels totally fluid. So you're playing the game and you're seeing yourself right there with those characters as the story is playing out.
And what's wild about it
to me is
very
smooth the way it zoomed out.
My whole life, like we've gotten used to seeing our characters customized how we have them in engine cinematics, but this looks like it's all pre-rendered, like it's your character in a Blizzard game cinematic. Which did you guys have to invent some new tools for this, or
I wouldn't go that
far,
but
sauce
sure.
Here?
We did, yeah. It's part of the engine that runs Diablo 4, and the art team really just delivered in an incredible way, from the lighting and the scenes to all of the props and the environments. I think it looks phenomenal, and I can't wait for players
the graphical
to check it out.
fidelity is good, but it is essentially just zooming in.
That cutscene kind of sets up a pretty bleak
and then
game,
zooming out.
But story is something, at least from my experience in the press beta back in December, you guys seem like you're really doubling down, making an extra conscious effort with story compared to, I guess, just the most recent Diablo mainline game, Diablo 3. Can you kind of speak to that for a minute about just the real focus that the team clearly has on story here?
We are, yeah. With Diablo 4, we really wanted to take our storytelling in the Diablo series to the next level. The Diablo world, the world of Sanctuary, all of the lore of Diablo is so rich and so interesting that we really felt like we could spend more time telling interesting stories. And one of the things that Diablo 4 does in particular is that it tells stories about people who are living in the world of Sanctuary, right? Obviously,
I have a hot take, potentially. I despise the writing in Diablo 3. I was the person who bought the books prior to Diablo 3 coming out, the Sin War trilogy, and got very invested in it. Obviously, I played Diablo 1, Diablo 2, very invested in the universe already. The writing in Diablo 3 vexed me so much, particularly with what they did with Malthael. I think they basically ruined what potential and what they did with him, basically going, we need to kill all the humans because they have demons blood in them, and then I'm going to absorb the black prime bloody stone and become basically a demon myself. That's not hypocritical. Hated all that bullshit. Obviously there was the Cain thing as well. Very, very disappointed in the Diablo 3 writing. I'm really hoping, and I feel like they probably are going to have better writing in Diablo 4. I hope that they lean more into the pre-established lore. Because as far as I'm aware, they literally commissioned the books to be written in prep for Diablo 3 and then didn't utilize any of that lore anyway. And it's cool lore. They did the short animations as well, the little anime kind of thing. So hopefully they lean into that more and utilize all of that. and don't just make up bullshit stories and you have to just save a man from an angry goat or something like that with side quests. So hopefully they do actually do a great job with the writing.
Obviously, there are angels with Inarius, and there are demons, and there are these supernatural forces that exist in this world. But characters of Sanctuary are the most interesting ones to follow, and you'll be right there along with them, both through the campaign, which is quite extensive, 30 hours or more of gameplay for players. There's tons of side quests that build out the world even more.
That's
and
cool. 30
really
hours
put
for a beta.
a lot of effort into Diablo 4, more effort than we've ever done before.
You can probably guess what I'm going to ask you next, because it's not often that we get to talk to you. We got a release date at the Game Awards, and thus the next natural question, do you want to ask it for me right here and then go ahead and answer it?
Since we announced that we would be doing a beta for Diablo 4, people have been asking, when is the beta? I think someone asked me, what is my favorite beta date? As a way to try to get an answer. And I'm incredibly excited because we're going to announce it today, right now. Now, remember, of course, that the game itself is coming
March 17th.
I
saw the blog post. It's March 17th for the early pre-paid
on March
one.
17th.
And then there's a free one the week after.
That weekend, if you've pre-ordered, right?
Yeah.
That is going to get access to the early access beta. Now, everyone in the world will be able to play it on March 24th through March 26th.
It's a lot sooner than I thought.
Weekend.
I thought it was going to be like closer to the release.
You can get an access
like maybe a few weeks before.
And everyone gets to play the weekend after.
And then if you're in that early access weekend, does everything get wiped and you're going to start over during that open weekend, or is everything?
Okay. I thought you meant for the game, like duh.
No, it'll carry over between weekends, but
nice.
Obviously the character progress during the beta will get wiped before release. We want everyone to start with a fair playing field, and of course it's going to be available on PC.
I wonder if the seasons will start on launch, or if they're going to do what they did with Diablo 3. Yeah, was it Diablo 3? I think it was Diablo 3 when they first introduced seasons or something. Sorry, no, Diablo 2, where Resurrected. You're like, oh, you're going to play for a month and then we'll start seasons for some arbitrary reason. I hope they don't do that, because I don't want to invest in a character that I'm not invested in, if you know what I mean, because I'm going to just wipe it after a month. So hopefully it's just like straight away, or a week tops, let's see.
The Xbox and PlayStation systems. And the beta itself, it's quite extensive. It's quite a significant look at the game, right? So it is limited by that period of time, right? Like the servers will shut down at the end of that time.
Yeah.
But there's no time limit within the game. You can level all the way up to 25, which is a quarter of the way to the level cap of 100 in the full game. You'll be able to play all the way through the prologue. You'll be able to play through Act 1, which takes place in
I assume it's the preview build that they showed everyone last year.
And you'll be able to play through all of the campaign and side quests that exist in that area. So there's quite a lot.
For those not familiar, the preview build, I think I watched a video by Force. I think he said something that was like 10 to 15 dungeons just in Act 1, or in like the first area. So it sounds like there's a fair bit of content, although you're limited to level 25.
Oh, love hearing that. Now, in my experience covering games for a long, long time now, a lot of times when we see these betas nowadays, they take place like the month before release at the earliest, and they're kind of more like, for all intents and purposes, demos. But you're actually leaving enough time here to incorporate actual player feedback, given that you're doing this in March. So what are some of the things that you're going to be watching for when players get their hands on the beta, and how much actual meaningful feedback do you expect to incorporate into the final game?
This beta is happening far enough ahead of launch, and there are two reasons to do that. One, of course, we want to test our server infrastructure. We want to make sure that the game is actually ready for everyone to play at launch. We want everyone to have the best experience.
Not error 37 like Diablo 3.
It's another opportunity to test our balance, our game's balance, right? So we're going to be able to look.
I find that hard to believe. Like, yeah, sure, like there would be some balance tweaks, like if they discover one spell is blatantly like abusable in some way, but it's only the first act up to level 25. There's not really a lot of balance you can do there. Ultimately, the end game is where all the balance is going to be. So I feel like that's them polishing a turd a bit. You know what I mean? They're embellishing that a little bit. They're going, oh yeah, we'll do some balance tweaks, but being realistic, like what balance tweaks. It's the first act.
At data from this, even though it's an early look, players aren't going to be experiencing the end game in this beta. It will give us valuable information for class balance, valuable information for how fun, very valuable information for class.
Flay, generate fury. Okay, so fury generators. Flay the enemy, dealing 127 damage. Inflicts 1000 bleeding damage over 5 seconds. Next rank, extra impact damage. I wonder if that means there's different types of like physical melee weapon damage then, maybe? Or if impact damage just means if you hit them with a weapon. Bleeding damage, yeah, sure. Modifiers. When Flay deals direct damage to an enemy, they take 10% times 10%? I suppose. Increased bleeding damage for the next 3 seconds. When Flay deals direct damage, you gain 1% damage reduction and 92 thorns. They're bringing back thorns for 3 seconds. This stacks up to 5 times. Physical damage requires a slashing weapon. Okay, that's so you got impact damage, but with a slashing weapon. So I'm guessing impact damage just means on hit damage. And there's just slightly vague wording, I suppose. Vulnerable. Enemies take 20% increased damage. I wonder if that's you can't quite see it because the loading bar, but it looks like there's something being modified onto it. Will I stream this? Yes, I will be streaming Diablo 4. Now, one thing I'm concerned I'm going to preface this as well with a disclaimer before I give a potential hot take. I know Diablo 4 and Diablo is not Path of Exile. And it doesn't have to be. Thinking about it, like it doesn't have to be Path of Exile. Path of Exile is an insanely complex game, and there's a lot of stuff to do. Arguably too much. They should probably trim the fat a wee bit. However, what I'm seeing here, can you see my mouse? You can. You've got the skill. Presumably these are all skills by the looks of things, because they've all got a square rather than a diamond. And these all have the same symbol on them. And there's 3 things. And by the looks of things, it's always pretty much 3. I am interested to know what this is. I wonder if this is vulnerable. That's mentioned down here. But you pick your ability, you can rank it up. With Path of Exile, if you pick a skill, you can customize the hell out of it. You can make that skill into what you want it to be. You could have 10 people pick the same skill and how that skill is utilized. And even visually, it can look completely unique across those 10 people. You could turn it into like a big AoE skill. You could make it so it adds bleed or removes bleed, or so it changes the element, or it has high single target damage. You can basically do it in an almost infinite amount of ways. There's like, what, 500 skill gems in total, support and skill gems included. Here, you go, I have picked Flay. So you're obviously going to get the next 2. And I say 2 because obviously you're going to pick that one to get these. I'm willing to bet, like this one, you've got obviously the impact damage and the dot damage. I bet one of them gives you higher bleed damage and the other one gives you higher impact damage or something like that. So it's one of 2 choices. Now, that doesn't sound like too big a deal at first, but my concern is, especially again in comparison to, say, Path of Exile. With Path of Exile, you've got your classes and your ascendancies, but the ascendancies don't bottleneck you into an archetype. You could pick a Deadeye and still use a wand, or you could pick a Juggernaut and still use a bow. You know, it's just the passives that you get are going to impact the build. Whereas with the Diablo games, you are picking an archetype. If you want to play a caster, you pick either the sorceress, the wizard, the druid, or the necromancer. And then you go, well, I like elemental magic. So then you pick the sorcerer, which means that if you're someone who likes to stick to an archetype, like I'm the sort of player who will play every class, but there are absolutely people who will only play the sorcerer again and again and again. So how many times will they be able to go over that again and again and again? Because this is going to be a live service game, remember. It's not something that you really want to play once or twice, then toddle off and find something else. The idea of this game is something that you keep coming back to, much like with Path of Exile. So it just feels like I've discussed it before. I did a flicker build. I've done an ice flicker build. I've done a crit flicker build. I've done a poison flicker build and stuff like that. And they all worked in substantially different ways, all with the same ability. So I'm just concerned that in the long term, unless they completely revamp skills every so many months or every season or whatever, people are going to get through that type of content for that one class pretty quickly, which obviously isn't going to impact everyone because, again, some people will play all the classes and they will obviously get more content out of it compared to someone who just plays the one class over and over again. But it just feels very, very simple. I think Last Epoch has the balance where it's not too complex, nor is it too simple. And I know why they're casualizing it. Like Diablo 3, they made it casual as hell. And obviously it sold like millions and it became like the top 17 or 10 game that sold in the world across all the platforms. But then those people didn't really stick around for long. Like, I enjoyed the Diablo 3 like gameplay. I played it for like 500 hours, but then I stopped. Whereas Diablo 2 and Path of Exile, I've played for thousands of hours, and they want people to play Diablo 4 for thousands of hours. So I am a little bit concerned that it's effectively down to between two options with each skill. So a little concern there, but
balance,
I digress.
Valuable information for how fun various quests are. We've got more information about the details of the beta. You know, I touched on them a little bit, but if you tune in on February 28th, we're going to be doing our second developer live stream. And so we'll have more information about the beta then.
Excellent. All right,
I hope
Joe,
it actually
so
has
we
some
are
info.
just about a month away. Is there anything else?
Because the last one was just a rehash of the first one, which was really weird.
That we should be on the lookout for when we play it.
We were talking about the cinematic, the opening cinematic earlier, which features your character, but you should know that there are a bunch of those in the game, and you're going to get to see a number of them during the beta. So that's not the only one, and there's some really cool stuff in there.
Well, Joe, I don't know if I'll get to talk to you again before you ship this game. So thank you in advance to you and the team for pushing hard in the final stretch, because it's, for me personally, I've been playing Diablo since the first game, so which makes me old. But I had like I told you earlier, I had an absolute blast. Like, I was trying to explain it to somebody of why this game feels good.
That was a weird
feels like Diablo 2 kind of good. And I can't quite explain why, which is not great because
I can explain why. It's the lighting. It's 100% the lighting. A lot of people complained about Diablo 3's art style. I didn't mind the art style. The issue was the lighting. Everything glowed in the fucking dark. You went into a cave made of ice that was buried under 20 billion tons of rock, and you're like, oh yes, it's there's a lot of blue lights emanating from all this ice. I can see perfectly well. I better put my gunners on, kind of thing. Like, it was kind of weird. Whereas obviously in Diablo 2, and that got especially made prevalent with Diablo 2 Resurrected, so there's a light radius, and obviously beyond the radius it's black. You can't see anything, and that added to the horror aspect. Whereas in Diablo 3 you could see the entire screen. It was perfectly well lit. There was bloom on everything all the time. That's why it feels like Diablo 2, because there's darkness, actual darkness.
it's my job to explain why, but you're clearly on the right path for me. So I just, thanks for the next 4-5 months of what will, I'm sure, will be super hard work, because I can't wait to play the final game.
Well, I appreciate it. Fixing bugs and getting the game ready. So we're just as excited to get it out and to have people get the chance to play all the work the team's been working on.
Yeah, that was cool.